as we would have looked at our 10 misconceptions, we wanted to build on some of them and learn how we can age gracefully. What can we do? So we want to break it down into a few aspects in this presentation. What to expect. We want to look at our physical, our cognitive, our mental health, and then we want to learn how to manage as we get older. How to manage these things that we spoke about as we get older. So we just want to establish some baseline things that we know about already. We wouldn't spend too much time on them. We know about our blood sugar, we know about our HbA1c, we know about our blood pressure, and we know we need to monitor those things, what our target values tend to be if we are not diabetic, or if we are diabetic, what our modified targets would be. And we see some numbers as 155, 7%, 130/80. And we know the proverbial word we hear about blood pressure is 120/80. So those are targets of people who have those conditions. It might be a little higher than the population does not have it, but these are some basic targets to keep your values below. And then we talk about kidney health. We always hear about, the percentage function of your kidney. How much percent, we always hear about that, how it's working. We talk about EGFR, the filtration rate. And diabetes and high blood pressure have a big part to play in that. And controlling those things keep us above 90, which is good filtration rate. When we get lower than that, then we talk about people who need dialysis. And then we talk about our cholesterol profile. And out of the whole cholesterol profile, that LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, that's what we look at. And we look at people with and without, less than 70 and less than 55, those are our target values. So we just want to break it down with our HbA1c. And so if our HbA1c is 5.7% or less, you are normal. If it's between 5.7 to 6.5, you are pre-diabetic. And if you are more than that, you are diagnosed as diabetes. And we know these things already. And then we have our high blood pressure categories. We have our normal as our green band, our middle ranges, and of course red meaning alert or red flags. And we know that if we have higher blood pressure, we have a lot of things to be looking at. Look at our blood vessels, our kidneys, our heart, our brain, and to control that so we don't end up with the complications of high blood pressure. So what to know about high blood pressure as you get older? That's what you want to look at. You have a higher chance of your pressure getting higher as you get older, because part of controlling pressure is not just what you eat or how you exercise. Just remember, if you have pipelines in your house, over time those pipelines get corroded if you had metal ones, brittle if you have PVC ones. And what could happen? It could break, it could leak, it could get blocked up. So similarly with your high blood pressure, the blood vessels that your blood flows through become like that. So that affects how pressure is transmitted throughout those tubes. So if your pressure is low or high, it might have something to do with your blood vessels. So you have other factors that influence it. And then most people with high blood pressure don't even know they have it. That's why it's called a silent condition. And serious health problems can take place. So what can you do? Check your pressure. Easiest thing to do. Sometimes people come to the hospital. When the last did you check your pressure? Last year. And today is what? June? May? May. Do you exercise and eat regularly? Eat healthy? Yes, yes, yes. But I eat some doubles this morning, and I eat some sahina, and I eat this and eat that. But I eat healthy. Did you take your medication? Yes, yes, yes. What's the name of your medication? The blue one. Anybody ever tell you that? Or the one in the foil pack? or the round white one, plenty thing look like a round white tablet. Down to Panadol look like that. So you can say you're taking the round white tablet and it's Panadol you're taking for your pressure. So you need to know what you are doing, what you have, and if you are actually taking the correct medication. And those are things that your wisdom and life experiences will teach you as an older person to pay attention to. So for example, anecdotal, we have a lot of men come to the A&E or to a hospital, and you ask them, do you take medications for anything? Yes. Do you remember if anything? My wife will tell you. True? Anybody ever went with a relative to the hospital or to a doctor and you had to answer for them? No? Yes. Right? So the thing is, we have to take a personal responsibility to an extent. Of course, we know you might be getting forgetful, you might remember all the fancy names, but if you know what it is for, or a piece of the name, it helps someone to understand what is happening. So these are things that we can do as we get older. And then our cholesterol. So we know a lot about cholesterol too, just like high blood pressure and diabetes. And these are some basic values we look at. Our total being less than 200, our bad cholesterol, which is LDL, less than 100, and our triglycerides, less than 150. Those are the targets we aim for. And there are many ways to control these things. Your foods, your diet, what you put in, what you don't put in, your physical activity. Those are things that contribute to better cholesterol health. So what are the complications of diabetes and high blood pressure, or complications that may arise? And we know two main ones: heart disease and kidney disease. A lot of people know people with it or know somebody close with it, and we know what these things do. Heart disease, angina, chest pains, heart attacks. Kidney disease, just chronic kidney disease or kidney failure that requires dialysis. And then other complications could be strokes, which is a combination of these things that affect our blood, our ability to clot, and for blood to flow to different areas of the brain. So we want to look at some specific things now to help us age healthily. Aging and healthy food choices. How many calories should people eat? And we categorize it men and women. So you look at different activity levels. So sometimes we eat a meal and say the average is 2,000 or 2,500 calories a day. But all that is dependent on your physical activity. If you're not super physical, you are not very active, you don't want to eat 2,000, 3,000 calories because you'll end up adding on weight to yourself because you're not burning it off. So you have different categories. Similarly for men, you have, based on their physical activity level, the amount of calories that you should eat. I know we like to go to the extremes. If you eat that sweet smelling snack, and I say that already have 800 calories in it, and you're supposed to eat 2,000 calories. That's almost half of your diet in one snack. Where are you getting the rest of the food from? So that's why we have to be careful with our choices and our activity level. So, to slow aging, there is a nutrient profile that has been found scientifically. I will share how this was done. So, fatty acids, food found in seafood, and healthy cooking oils have some things that are found in people who live older. And you'll see at the end where this study came from. Antioxidants, we know what all of these things, or berries, or tomatoes, nuts, fruits, veggies. We know about these things about antioxidants. And we like to be so specific. Should I eat red cherry versus the green cherry? Cherry is cherry. I know we like to be very specific. Should I eat 2 or 3? Eat 2.5. So, sometimes we want to be so specific with being so healthy, we make it burdensome. And that's why we turn ourselves away from being healthy, because you want to make it so exact and specific. Should I boil 2 rough-skinned lemon in the water or 3? Anybody know about that one? Or should I use 2 leaves of soursop leaf to sleep, or 2.5? Should I grind it or should I squeeze it? And they get the same product at the end? Right. You might find something might work a little different, but it's the same ingredient. So when we want to be super specific, we make it burdensome, and it's easier for us to say, no, I'm not going to do it. True? Because the preparation is so hard because I make it hard. So if we say berries, berries is berries is berries is berries. True? And tomatoes, whether it's what? Bell tomato, wrong tomato, heirloom tomato, baby tomato, anyone. All right? Carotenoids, that's the carrots and your green, orange vegetables, spinach, kale, carrots, any one of these things. Vitamin E in fruits and vegetables and some seafoods and seeds and nuts. So this is a profile that was found in people living at an older age. Choline. Now, sometimes people be careful with eggs, but this is something that was found in people eating this type of diet. So some eggs, some dairy, and some vegetables. And many of these foods make up the Mediterranean diet. You may have heard about it. So we are seeing the type of people that were tested. The Mediterranean. Where is the Mediterranean? Greece, Italy, that area around that, where they have a lot of fishing, a lot of farming, a lot of vegetables. We are hearing nothing about plenty meat yet. So it's important as to where. And what was significant is that this test or this research wasn't asking people what to eat alone. They test the blood and they see what was high in the blood to make them live longer. So this was a dual test. Not only history, what you are doing, how you are eating, what you are eating, but they looked at blood tests, brain scans, and cognitive testing, meaning they scan the brain, do MRIs, see how the healthy brain compared to someone younger. Cognitive testing, so they're testing, your ability to respond quickly, remember, recall, recognize, and they also tested your blood to see what were the nutrients in your blood. So this was significant with the Mediterranean diet and those eating that type of diet. So it kind of gives us an idea what type of diet or type of foods we should be pushing to. So in 2021, a study looked at 21,000 people, and they looked at the Mediterranean diet, and it significantly lowered the risk of sudden cardiac death, meaning a sudden heart attack. So out of the 21,000 people, there was a significant reduction. And then there's another diet called the DASH diet. Everybody hear about this when they talk about high blood pressure, a low salt diet. That is what this is, a low salt diet. And it helps people to lose weight, reduce the risk of diabetes and heart disease. So what does a DASH diet mean? So same thing, a lot of fruits, veggies, low fat, low meat, fish, nuts, grains, those type of things. And it limits the unhealthy, fatty, and salty and sweetened foods. So the MIND diet now, so you talk about 2 diets, Mediterranean, DASH. We have M already and we have D in it. So this now is a combination diet of the Mediterranean and DASH. And this is specific in an older population to reduce the risk of neurodegenerative changes. So what this does, it helps us, people who have this combination of these diets, help you to better think clearly, to learn and remember, compared with the other eating styles that people tend to employ. So what you can do, whether it's just the plain Mediterranean, the plain DASH, or the combination, all of them have overlaps, and all of them have the same benefits. And the key is a lot of your green, leafy vegetables, your fruits, And in terms of if you have to have a non-vegetable component, they recommend fish as their component. So what is the MIND diet? So it's basically the Mediterranean intervention for neurodegenerative delay, MIND. Mediterranean intervention for neurodegenerative delay. So this combination decreases now your risk of getting dementia, becoming more forgetful. Because we always say about the omega acids and the omega-3 and all of these things. All of these things are in our vegetables and fish if you need to use that. So, general pointers in how we make our choices to eat. Focus on our fruits and nuts, vary your vegetables, make half of your plate your whole grains, your nuts and your grains, and vary your protein. And protein does not necessarily have to be meat alone. And of course, you reduce or limit your use of the unhealthy sources of even proteins of some of these things. So tips for choosing a healthier diet. Quite a lot of things. And it's stressed over and over. And we know it, fruits, vegetables, or grains, or proteins, and we limit those things that are high in unhealthy components. So, that's our choices for food. Get moving. We talked about exercise earlier. Exercise and physical activity. So a study of 40 adults, 40 people, or people 40 years and older, taking 8,000 steps, compared to people taking only 4,000 steps a day, was associated with a 51% lower risk of death from all causes. So if you make 8,000 steps a day, you're living 51% longer than somebody else. Or you're in that group that would live that group of 51% that would live longer. So it's a simple thing as walking. We feel we have to go and walk up the hill and do crunches and do this and do that. Like how sometimes the younger people will tell you, you have to go to the gym and do this and do that. Those things will be helpful, but that's those simple things you do around your home. Walk up the stairs, walk down the stairs, walk around the house. If you go to a business place, use the stairs instead of the elevator if you can tolerate that. Some stairs are quite steep and high. You may not be able to do all of them. And you may have some limitations in mobility, but you can still move intermittently. And you can increase your steps by just your daily normal activities that you do. You have a pet, you walk your pets. So maybe let's say that's like with the dog and I'm running the yard, you walk with the dog. Simple things like that. And then there was another test or study that was done in 2019 in Baltimore, and it found that moderate to vigorous physical exercise is strongly associated with muscle function regardless of age. Remember we asked, is it a misconception to stop exercising because you don't want to injure yourself? At any age, moderate to vigorous physical exercise is beneficial. And it suggests that exercise is able to prevent age-related decline in muscle function. Let's think about it. You're not old. Let's think about that young person who broke their hand. A lot of children at holiday time running and they fall and break their hand. And then a cast. What happened after that few weeks in the cast? They had full strength? Why? Because it was not in use. So if it was in use, it would have been full 100%. Similarly, as we get older, we feel, well, I get old, I don't have to do this, and I don't have to move about. It will remain as usual. No, less use means less function. And that's why we get a lot of people coming with frozen shoulders, stiff joints, because they're keeping themselves locked up. They sit down watching TV, and they're just like that. They're not moving, they're not stretching. The only time they might get up to go somewhere is to go to the washroom. And then they'll come in the night bawling in pain, my back hurting me. You ever had anybody with that experience? And they didn't fall down. Nobody pushed them down for spite. If you wanted to do it, you might, but because you're crying loud in the night. But there's nothing external to cause them to have the pain except immobility. And we're not talking about conditions that could influence that. We're not talking about somebody who has a fracture or a stroke or something like that. We're talking about people who deliberately just pack up the cell. So, there are some specific things with exercise. And we see that in at least, if you have at least 150 minutes to 300 minutes a week of moderate exercise, or even 75 minutes of exercise, you can be healthy. And it's not no big long, that sounds 300 minutes. 300 minutes is just 3 hours. A little more than 3 hours, or more than that. 6 hours. And you could split it an hour a day. Technically, you're going an hour a day. And think about it, if you're just walking in the yard in the morning to weed grass or water your plants, how long are you spending? Hour? Or more? Or less? So more, and you're moving around, you're stooping down, you're bending, you're pulling, you're using your arm, all of these things. And sometimes as little as twice a week, you can reap the benefits of exercise. And it's at least 150 minutes a week. 2 days a week, you can have that minimal effect of having a good exercise impact. And these are some of the things you have to split up your physical activity, endurance. So you go in some extra time. So not just 5 minutes every day, or 5 minutes, or 7 minutes, or 10 minutes. Flexibility, or stretching, balance. The easiest thing we know is stand up on one leg, but simple thing as balance, sitting posture, sitting upright, standing straight, not slouching or leaning on something. And strength, simple thing, sitting to stand up. That's going against gravity and your weight. You may not necessarily have to use weight. So if you have something that band, that resistance band, you can use those things. There's simple things as, lifting that bag of flour. That's resistance. Bending down to pick it up. So if you're looking at things, I don't have certain things to help me exercise. There are things in your house that you have. And then some examples, specific examples that you can look at to help you exercise or maintain a physical activity. Simple things, walking, hiking, jogging, doing your yard work, pushing the wheelbarrow, those simple types of things. And strengthening things against resistance or using a weight. Anything that has that builds your muscle strength. So we can keep ourselves motivated. We have to find ways in our daily activities to incorporate physical activity. Find things that we enjoy. Make it social. Get somebody to come and join you. You have a family member living close by. 5 o'clock every evening, we're going to take a walk around the house. Or I want to come and help me water the plants. So you have some company, so you feel encouraged to do what you are doing. And the significance of being physically active, this is important. Anybody ever had somebody who fall down at home and they didn't know what to do? And we worry about when older people fall down because it's easier for them to break a bone. And when they break a bone, they can't move, and you have to take care of them. Or you have to get somebody to take care of them. And you see how things trickle down to involve everybody in a household, or in a community, or in a church, to take care of one person with a simple fall, or even a fall that started out simple but caused complications in the end. So when you have strong muscles, good reflexes, you are able to manage your movements to prevent. That doesn't mean you may not fall, If you're going to stumble, you're going to stumble, but you may handle it a little differently. Or if an injury does take place because you're physically active, you are better able to recover from it. And then there's the mental health aspect. Because if you remember, you say you exercise, you feel good, you get someone else involved with you, you have encouragement. So your mental ability, your mental health, your mood, you feel good and better about yourself that you are doing something to remain healthy. So physical activity has not just only the physical aspect, but the mental aspects of health. And this is a big topic that a lot of people want to talk about, cognitive health. And I see we'll develop a little more from our hit on dementia. So what is cognition? And it's the ability to think, to learn, and remember. Because that's the main thing. Could you understand something? Could you learn to do something? Do you remember this? And that's what we find with a lot of people as we look at cognitive decline. And these things change naturally as we age. You will not remain 100% with the ability to learn everything from scratch and everything in detail as you would have done at a younger age, but you still can learn things. Probably not as quickly as or as in depth as, but you will know what to do. So what is brain health? And there are many different aspects of, people just think about that thing, thinking and understanding. But it's our ability to control our limbs, motor function, sensory, seeing, hearing, tasting, understanding the environmental input, tactile, touch. If you feel something that is hot and you're not moving your hand, something is wrong. Cognitive health, our thinking, our learning, our memory. And emotional, we have some folks as they get older, I never know him to behave so, He never said them things before. Or they never quarrel like that before. Or why he's so emotional, he crying for everything. And ever had any older relative go through that? So emotional health is a part of our brain health also. And this is important. Not all forgetfulness is dementia. So as we say, there are normal signs of forgetfulness. You might make a bad decision. So if you're driving, I turn down this road, oh shucks, I shouldn't go down this road again. Because something, I remember, it's a real traffic and people is parked up on both sides. You're not dementia or demented as some people want to say. If you forget to make a monthly payment on a bill, it's not the be-all and end. Yes, you might lose utility for a month, but forgetting to do that on time is not a sign that you have dementia. Even young people forget to do it. True? And they come by granny and grandpa to ask for a little change? Right. So who have dementia for real then, right? So you see, we have to put things in perspective. And sometimes forgetting which, you're talking to somebody, I remember this person, I can't remember the name, but I remember this plant, the plant, a green plant. And 2 minutes after you remember it. You don't have dementia, you just have forgetfulness. Because you have so much information to process in your brain. And learning things for the first time. So if you're learning to use a smartphone and to use WhatsApp and add a call, you might have to do it 10 times when your grandson or granddaughter might just take 2 times and they figure it out and say, Granny, how come you can't do it, right? But you will get it because you're doing it now, right? So that's not dementia. That's just forgetfulness. Normal processes we expect. When you have dementia, and even specifically people equate it with Alzheimer's disease, you make poor judgments all the time. A lot of the times. And you don't learn from it. So you go down the same road over and over and you didn't know why you're doing it. You have problems taking care of your daily, monthly activities. So you're just not paying the bill because you just don't know you have a bill to pay. Or you just, I have a bill, but you pay it already. You forget that you didn't pay it. Losing track of date and time. So this is where your position in time and place is lost or muddled. Trouble having a conversation. Not just, remember the green plant? Remember we went there and we saw it and we went to La Vega and whatever. You could put all of that together, but the person with Alzheimer's or dementia wouldn't even be able to put the green plant and leave it like that. And you're supposed to look how much green plants are right or wrong here. Which one we talking about? And then misplacing things and cannot find them. You might be able to put on your key somewhere and you'll know, well, I usually put it in three spots, I'll check it back. Oh yes, I find it here. They will not know anything at all. So we see the big disparity in just simple forgetfulness versus dementia going on to Alzheimer's disease. So dementia is an umbrella term. We have Alzheimer's disease, which we know about. Frontotemporal dementia, that's dealing with the neurons in the brain, and that affects personality. So when you have some people all the time be quiet, but now when you go, you only cussing the caregiver. You ever hear about that? When you go to take care of some old people, they only cursing you, and they never know them to do that? Right. Personality changes. They are very aggressive when they go just grabbing you and digging. They want to cuff and kick. We never know them to even church people. Anybody ever take care of an older person like that? Even a church person? Yes. And so you have to tie them down. Lewy body dementia, this is a next chemical in the brain, and that affects behavior and movement. So there's a lot of those shaking, not Parkinson's, but a lot of shaking and shuffling, and they can't move comfortably. And then you have vascular dementia, people who have strokes. Over time, people who have strokes have an increased risk for more memory loss. They may be more forgetful. And sometimes same thing, some of those personality changes may take place depending on where the stroke would have taken place in the brain. So cognitive health, how to boost your cognitive health. So we have a study with 3,000 participants, and these criteria is what they tested them on. At least 150 minutes of physical activity a week, no smoking, no drinking, high quality Mediterranean diet or DASH or MIND diet, engagement in mentally stimulating activities such as reading, writing letters, so you engage in your mind in activities. So these criteria, these 5 criteria were tested in 3,000 participants. And this is what they found. That if they followed at least 4 of these criteria, they had a 60% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. So if you exercise, if you if you don't drink, you don't smoke, eat healthy, 60% already you are reduced. Your risk is reduced of having Alzheimer's disease. And let's say if you want to go it even lower, just 2 or 3 of these activities, you reduce by 37%. So if you do bare minimum, you have a 1/3 reduction in the risk of Alzheimer's, which is big. You already know that 50% of people would not get it. And then if you reduce that risk more, you are in a better group at that time. And there's another study in 2019, and it looked at the physical aspect. If you control your blood pressure and by extension, your other chronic diseases, you may slow age-related brain damage and even mild cognitive impairment. So we see how important doing these things are. And sometimes you say, yeah, don't worry, I good. I eat plenty garlic, everything in good pans. Yeah. But we must know, yes, it is good for you, but we must measure to see how it's working. And if it's not working, we either increase the amount of garlic we use or add something else. True? Because you want the pressure to be under control. Everybody like to call and ask, could I replace my diabetic medication with berberine? Anybody hear what berberine? So somebody called plenty times asking, could I replace my diabetic medication with berberine? So the answer is, short answer is no, but the long answer could be maybe. We have to remember all of these things are supplements that help. And sometimes when you look at something, they say it's good for this, that, and good for 20 different things. But out of the 20 different things, which one is it very good for? And we have to put things in perspective. So it will help as an additive, but it may not be the only source of control. So similarly, if we are doing something, we must measure what we are trying to have an impact on to see if it is working. So what can we do to preserve our cognitive health? Control these things. Eat well, control our chronic diseases, eat healthy, keep physically active. And again, we go back to our nutrient profile on people with less neurodegenerative changes or a better neurodegenerative delay. This mind diet. And these are the things that, and you realize you do a lot of these things already. True? A lot of these things we do even as Seventh-day Adventists. So just as a reminder of our mind diet. And these are some things that we can do to reduce our risk of dementia. Again, control our chronic diseases, sleep well, eat well, physically active, connect with people, socialize. Don't remain by yourself. You know, some people, we have two groups. You'll have some of the older folks, I want to stay by myself. Them don't know me. You know, you have family like that. When you want to go on, no, I don't want you to help me. I will do it for myself. And when you go by the house, it's not clean, they're not eating, the kitchen not clean, then the bedroom not clean, but they want to do everything by themselves. So it's important, then these are the folks who get a quicker decline into being unhealthy physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then we have the other one now where you want to be like the helicopter parent. You want to do everything for them, and you frustrate them that they lash out. And then you strain relationships, and then goes back and being unable to connect with friends and family. So we have those two extremes. We have to find a balance there. So that leads us into taking care of our mental health. So our mental health affects how we think, we feel, we act and make choices, how we relate to others, how we behave in social issues or social situations. And how we interact in those situations help us to be mentally well. So we have some studies, and we talk about isolation, being by yourself, being lonely, and people who have that lifestyle have a higher risk of physical ailments, heart disease, emotional ailments, depression, and cognitive decline. So their natural forgetfulness now will become worse, and then they may go across into the sphere of one of the dementias. In 2021, a study of more than 11,000 people showed that people above the age of 70, that loneliness was associated with heart disease. Imagine that. Not atherosclerosis, not cholesterol, not diabetes, not high blood pressure, loneliness. Imagine that. That is what caused the heart attack. Right. So it shows the importance of having our older population involved in all of our family activities, our community activities, our social activities. Just leaving a group by itself just because of its chronological order, as we say, or we have the young people staying on one side, the older people staying on one side, and they never shall mix. We have to balance those things. Of course, I wouldn't expect a younger person to go and play a board game every night, or a young older person going and running a 100-meter race in a sports day with little children every day. So we have to be real in what is appropriate to interact with our both age groups. I found that next study, socially isolated older adults experience again chronic physical symptoms. So you might feel being lonely is just mental, but it's physical symptoms they experience. And that's what we have to figure out when people come to the A&E. Is it a physical symptom you come for? Or is it an emotional symptom exhibiting a physical sign? So for example, the blood pressure high, the heart rate high, but you have no chest pain, you're not feeling short of breath, but those things high. What causing it? Well, everybody gone out for the weekend. Today's a long weekend, and they leave me alone home. I don't know where I'm getting food today. True. And feeling lonely can also impact your memory. And a study of 8,000 adults older than 65 found the same thing. Loneliness was now associated with cognitive decline. Socially active can also now benefit. So if you are so the opposite of being isolated and lonely, it can benefit. So another study of 3,000 adults found that if you made social contacts, you talk with people, you felt better physically and psychologically. And you're able to reach, and they had a specific parameter, your exercise goals. So remember, you say, get somebody involved in your exercise regimen. So if you get somebody involved, you start to feel better in your exercise. So depression in older adults. People always feel once they get depressed, well, that is it for them. Them down and you can't do nothing for it. It can be treated. You have what we call non-pharmacological, non-medicine, and medicinal ways to treat it if it has to go to that point. Because remember, it deals with your brain chemistry, your mood, your personality, and your interaction with others and yourself. Because when depression becomes unmanaged, you can lead into self-harm or harm to others. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. So it can be treated, and we cannot, even in a faith environment, deny certain realities and possibilities of treatment. So we try all aspects from our physical, emotional, spiritual, and medicinal aspects to help members cope with depression so that they don't experience the complications that may arise. And for some people, the symptoms vary. Sometimes they just pull into themselves. But you see that older person in church, or even that younger person, they're sitting down by themselves in one spot every time they come. And as soon as church finishes, they briskly walk out. That's their sign of depression. You might feel, say, well, them want to talk to nobody, but that's a sign. Or then you might have the one who every time you see them, they're crying down everything for you. They are on the very expressive aspect of depression. And you can offer support. And of course, we talked a lot about doing these things, but we realize having that physical support from somebody else helping you exercise, somebody helping you cook, somebody helping you clean, somebody that's coming and talking with you, even on your phone. So like I know in churches, a lot of people look forward, at 11 o'clock, sister so-and-so going to call me at 11 o'clock. I'm going to sit down and wait. And I feel disappointed when you don't get the call. 5 minutes after you call, yes, I was going to call you, I was just finishing up something. And you feel so good about it. So those simple things help to foster that social contact in our groups. And so again, we stress staying in contact with people makes the biggest difference. Getting a good night's sleep. So when we get a good night's sleep, as we say, 7 to 9 hours, everybody, no matter what age group, you need to have that sleep. Feeling sick or being in pain can make it harder to sleep. We know that. If you're in pain, you can't sleep. Some medicines keep you up at night. And not enough good quality sleep can make you irritable. So later on in the day now, you lash out at somebody, you forget to do something, you're not getting dementia, you're just forgetful because of an external factor. You increase your risk of falls and accidents. So we see how important it is to have a good night's sleep. So sleep quality matters for memory and mood. So people older than 65 years, this research found that if you had poor sleep quality, you had poor ability in problem solving and concentrating than those who had good sleep. And another study with people in their 50s and 60s who got at least 6 hours sleep or less had a higher risk of developing dementia. So imagine people say, if I sleep too much, I'll forget everything. We really need to sleep more to remember more. So while you're sleeping, your mind is processing and compartmentalizing information, so it's easier to retrieve and remember later on. And this is a specific thing. Beta amyloid is a protein which is found in dementia patients. So inadequate sleep causes this to build up, and that increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease. But when we do MRIs and scans of brains of people on the brink of that, or even at death as a postmortem, you see these markers showing up in their brain at a higher scale than someone without those symptoms. So in 2021, a study found that people who get a good sleep, they have lower rates of insulin resistance, diabetes control, heart disease, obesity, and sleep can improve your creativity. It can improve your creativity and your ability to concentrate. So, some health habits to sleep well. a regular routine. You know, we like to say, well, when I feel tired, then I'll sleep. And so we don't understand when some of the older people saying by 7 o'clock I'm going to sleep, or when news finish I'm going to sleep, or when I finish eat, or when this task is finished we go in. And they set that time every day. So they have a routine and pattern, so it's easier for them to fall asleep and remain asleep. And sometimes you feel, you know, if you sleep during the day, that's a good sign. If you sleep during the day, that means your quality of sleep in the night wasn't as good as it should have been. Or you have something else increasing your risk for sleeping. So as we know, we have all these smartphones and tablets. Reduce, even for the younger people, your exposure to it at nights. Exercise regularly. Avoid stimulants. Keep your bedroom quiet and calm. So instead of having a TV or a radio on and you have it playing whole night, even though it's religious music. So you may get a louder piece of music and you jump up and you don't know where this noise is coming from. Only to realize there's a radio right in your room. So some of these simple distracting sounds and noises can influence the quality of sleep that you have. Well, this is what we like to talk about. Come to the doctor regularly. So having checkups is basically, as I hinted on, if you are treating something, we must measure to see what you are treating if it is working. So if you like to use garlic for high blood pressure, I must measure my high blood pressure periodically to see if this is working. So know if I need to increase it to 2 grains of garlic, to 3 grains of garlic. If it's not, then I need to add something else to help me control this. And that's a simple way to know how medications or natural remedies impact on our physical condition. So what you can do, visit your doctor, get your tests done, get your monitoring done, and you'll be able to incorporate both a natural and a medicinal component or pharmacological component in your healthcare if that is required. So, this is important, and we hinted at it earlier. If you are taking medications, know what you are taking. Say in the white tablet in the foil pack, plenty things come in foil pack, plenty white tablets. At least know piece of a name of what it is for, or better yet, have a list written down. I have started seeing patients coming in with a list. We actually had a patient, I thought it was a child, when they did a typewritten, nice page-long list of allergies, medical conditions, medical history. It was an adult came with that with copy to give us in the A&E so we know what their conditions are without asking a question. So those are simple things. We think it's simple, it's just a write down, but it makes a big difference in someone else helping you to understand what is taking place. Ask questions about your medications. If you don't know what it is, ask. It is your right to say, what is this name? What is it for? What will it do? Are there any side effects? Do I have to take this for a prolonged period of time or a short time? And to show you the extremes, a lot of people go by their family doctor, they get an injection, and then they come to the hospital and they say, we get some medication by the doctor. Well, what was the name of the medication? I didn't ask them. What was it for? Because I was sick. And I now have to figure out now, if you come for something for pain, I don't want to overdose you on something that you already had and cause a reaction. So it's so important asking these questions are. And sometimes the person will say, well, they're doing nothing for them. Now we can't do anything, but you already pumped with medications. I don't know what you have on board. So as I give you something that will make you sleepy and you can't breathe, or you get an allergic reaction. So this is how important it is of you being interested in asking. And the next thing, keep track of your medicines. Sometimes things may change from your clinics. And we have people who, when they come with a big bag of medicines. And when you realize is, because this one named Panadol, this one named Febrex, this one named Feverlet, this one named Painol, but drug is the same. And they're taking all of them at the same time. So they're overdosing themselves on paracetamol, which is the basic drug. So keep track of your medications. Brand names may change, but the drug is the same. And same thing, ask your doctor, I see you give him a different name here. Is it the same thing I used to use before? Yes or no? So you will know what, and that's when some people come down, the pressure very, very low. Because they're taking 3 of the same pressure medication simultaneously when there's only one. And so you get into trouble just by not paying attention. So pay attention to those things. So tips to boost your health as you age. And this is a summary of what we would have looked at. Manage your stress. Learn something new. Physical activity. Choose healthy foods. Go to your doctor regularly. Connect with your family and friends. And these are the general tips again. Eat healthy, physical activity, take care of your mind, take care of your body, monitor what you are doing, get enough sleep, interact with people. So those are just some of the things that we would have expanded on from our 10 misconceptions to this aspect here. So as we grow, as we get older, we realize there are a lot of things that you can do, that you know to do, and that you can teach others to do also. So you realize we can age gracefully and healthily, because as a group, we have special information on health, more than some other people, and we have a better advantage. And that's what we'll conclude with in our next presentation shortly, and that will just bring and tie in everything together.